So what do we want to, before we start though, I just want to also thank Wales and West and Pobble Group. They're two people who support our work and make our work possible, especially during this time. So important. So big shout out to Wales and West and Pobble. And there is a guide that comes with this webinar, we prepared documents, and we'll be sending that to you afterwards as well, so that you can go into more detail. A webinar is never going to cover all the details, but it'll give you a flavour. And those who are interested enough at the end of this and haven't bored you to death, then, as I say, there'll be a document you can read in more detail. So, crowdfunding. This is what the subject is. Thank you for coming. It's quite a niche subject, but a very popular one at the moment, and you can do incredible stuff with it. Just wait for the slide slow. Before I start, though, I want to make sure, because we tested this once before, and people got confused what crowdsourcing was. We're not doing crowdsourcing today. Crowdsourcing is about getting information for a project by asking your communities, your consumers, your public, what do you want? What makes, help you devise your program of work, your products, your menus, things like that. That's crowdsourcing, where you're sourcing and firming up your ideas through your community. That's not what we're doing today. Crowdfunding is our subject. I just have to get that out of the way because it confuses a couple of people. So what is crowdfunding? Crowdfunding, quite simply, is a way of raising money to fund a project by small contributions by lots of people. You've probably donated to one before. So small amounts, lots of people, and in exchange for either goodwill or an incentive or something in return. It's done normally through online crowdfunding platforms. You may have seen some of them, Just Giving, Indiegogo, GoFundMe, things like this. And you use your network of people you know, word of mouth, online promotion, try and get it on the news and things like that to get people out there who support you. It's your tribe, your supporters. Some of them you don't even know. Some of them don't even know they supported you or wanted to support you, but they're out there, and that's what we want to tap into. And why is that a good thing? Hopefully this is loading. Traditional funding, those of you out there who've been involved in lottery bids and grant funding and going to Welsh governments and things like that, you can get large amounts of money, but from one source, and you can't keep going back to them, and you can spend a long time doing this. I'll show you an example later where they had the option of going for lottery money, and they probably could have taken them 6 months, whereas in 10 days, they crowdfunded the money they needed for their project. And I think it's that speed, agility that makes it really interesting. So I say traditional funding, go to the bank, go to your grant people, go to the Heritage Commission. Crowdfunding, small sums from lots of people. And really what we want to cover is the different models today, because it's quite fundamental. Some examples and what to consider to make it work. Just because you make a crowdfunding campaign doesn't mean it's going to work. It's some real important things that can make be successful. And what platform is right for you? There's a number of them, and they take different charges. Some you won't qualify for, some you can use, and some pitfalls in it. And obviously, if you need to ask questions at any point, I'll try and address them. And it's hard to see all the comments on the side as they're going, but I will try and keep an eye out for them. So the three basics, and if you learn anything from today, this is the start, which is model number one is donation-based. You have a cause, a charity, and people donate for that satisfaction. They either believe in you, want to support you. That could be from donating to an NHS event through to, saving Dinas Powys Woods, to people out there. The internet's a weird and wonderful place. There's people who fund boob jobs and all sorts of weird and wonderful things. Donation-based. So ask and people will give. And that's the simplest to set up. And you're just looking for your tribes, the people who have an affinity with what you're looking to do. Number two is what really interests me, is reward-based. So people donate different amounts of money, and it triggers incentives, and some of that could be physical, some of that could be a discount, exclusive access to something. And this is where it gets really interesting and exciting, especially for community-based projects. And as I say, the size of the reward reflects the amount you give. And there is a third equity based, and the platforms like Indiegogo and things like that will allow you to do that, where people are investing into businesses. To be honest, the audience here today, probably not your thing. It's complex. There's all sorts of legal implications to it. I'm not really going to do much on that. It's important to know that exists. But again, you're getting into the law and different commitments, and it's an expensive process. I think donation and reward based on what we're going to focus on more today. So tips for a successful campaign, whichever you use. I mean, first, you need a specific realistic target, Cool. I see your comment, Rob. I'll come to that in a minute. So you need realistic targets of what you can achieve. Time to create it as well. I noticed one went live this morning on the BBC. Somebody's going to read The Hobbit, and it's tomorrow. I mean, he's already raised 20,000 of his 100,000 in a matter of hours, but I personally would have given it a bit more time to build up that momentum. Not all of you were going to raise £100,000 in 24 hours. So time to create the campaign. Enough people as well to monitor. What you'll see as we go on is what works well with campaigns is people who've got videos, updates, good news stories, and they feed the campaign, if that makes sense, with success, so that success breeds success. So you need people around you to support this and the resources to go through with it. If you promise you're going to send everybody a button badge if they donate, we've got to make those button badges, and you've got to individually put them in envelopes. Is it writing out the envelopes, go around the post office, post them? It's a time, an effort. You've got to factor that into the rewards that you offer. Is it actually economical? And you've got to have a belief that there is people out there who support your thing. You don't have to know them straight away when you start this campaign, but you've got to have a belief that they're out there for what you're doing. So let's get to see some examples. I work on examples. I think it works much better if people can see what people do. Some good and some bad examples. So first is one, my local. This is some people looking to save some woodlands from some things Natural Resources Wales want to do. And they've just done a straightforward donation. What I like about it is when you look at the detail of this one, it tells you what they're going to do, why they need the money. And I think that's really important, not just donate because you want to save the woods, but actually what we're going to do with it. And in the actual, fundraising page, there was much more detail. It gave confidence that they priced it up, that it was realistic. It gave confidence that they would use it correctly and efficiently. And they had a target of 5,000. They haven't managed to meet that. I think the only thing I've said to them was probably they didn't feed it enough once they had it up and running. I think there could have been a little bit more in terms of keeping the campaign going. And, we're nearly there. Come on, we need, I think they could have pushed the campaign a bit more. But good start, straight donation. Equally, some of you may have done this before. This is almost the standard formula now, reward formula for publishing a book. Publishing a book, getting book deals are quite hard these days. So this is a friend of mine, Julie Howell. She was publishing a book, self-publishing. So she had to raise that money to have it printed and then try and get it distributed and things like that. So she offered, and this is a fairly standard thing. Just clicked on it. £7 for a book when it's published, because that's what it was going to cost. But £10 if it was signed, signed copy. Great. Wasn't really that interesting. I know her anyway. £15 invite you to the little launch in London, little nibbles and things like that. Or £25, you got your name listed as on the first page as a supporter. It was literally billed as people who made this happen. Now, those of you who know me and know my ego, which do you think I went for? I think some of you know, certainly Kath, who's on this, knows me well enough. Yes, I went for the £25, people who made this happen. And think about it from an economic point of view. Say self-publishing a book's quite expensive. Say it was £6 a copy. Well, if you sell for £7, you've only made £1. But if you sell them a signed copy, which is just your signature on it, you've made £4. That's actually 4 times more profit on the sale than just the single book. Does that make sense? So adding that sort of extra incentive, trying to get the value of the donation up is really important. and you'll see some better examples as we go along. This is a very topical at the moment with COVID. Pay it forward is almost a category in its own right in crowdfunding. So things that are shut at the moment, people can pay it forward, as in buy a package, whether that's a night at this spa or breakfast or dinner, things like that. And, you know, Gwawr here in St Clair's, that's what she's doing, you know. I don't think she's raised a particular amount, but it just sort of keeps that sort of that we're still visible, and they offer discounts as well to do that. I think it's more interesting when you're doing community projects. It could be a building that's going to open or something, you know, pre-book a party there, pre-book meeting space, things like that. Pay it forward. I think it's an interesting idea, and you offer discounts for effectively selling. It's a form of gift voucher, isn't it? You know, very popular at the moment. You'll see a lot of people do it, businesses and community groups doing this type of crowdfunding at the moment. Equally, it could be to open something. There's a lot of text on this page, but this was one in Barry, near me, a community interest company, a KIC, created. They wanted to open a zero waste store in Barry. Set 28 days, they had to put a bit longer, and they got 132 donations. They were like, when we open, you'll get this gift, or when you open, you get a discount card, things like that. Incentives were good, you know, good promotion, very low campaign. And they raised 4,100. Good, but, you know, I think that there's things like this could be done better. You know, it's the updates, feed in the campaign, that theme again, you know, show people, other people buying it, that fear of missing out, you know. 28 people in Barry have bought this, you know. Why haven't I? You know, there's something there about, let's say, keeping the campaign going. Equally, here's one from Natur Cymru, looking to a magazine where this works for them. So they wanted a £12,000 for a not-for-profit magazine, keep it afloat. What they've got, though, is a celebrity. You know, if you're going to do a nature project in Wales and you've got Yola Williams on board, that's really going to help you, isn't it? You know, £12,000 raised from a £12,000 target. You know, a celebrity is always going to get you promotion. It's always even just them putting it on their Twitter feed or their social media is going to help you. So, you know, I think that's another success factor as well, having somebody involved in your campaign. Equally, they can be fairly small. This was Wyndham Street in Cardiff, you know, renovation of a community centre. You know, it had a bit of a leaking roof, and there's probably some people here on this group today who've got a leaking roof or a rundown community centre or a bit of draft. You know, again, raised 8,500. They had to extend theirs because when you looked at their campaign, it was a very local campaign. It was about, and I think they could have gone wider with it. You know, I think it was well-meaning people looking to raise some money. They would just use their own, you know, community contacts. Still raised 8,500. Yeah, good on them. But I think, you know, there could have been more. They had to extend the deadline. And as I say, but they got what they needed to do. Big Moose is the one I always use. Some of you may have heard this one before. I'm a big fan of what, you know, they were looking for £20,000 to open a not-for-profit coffee shop, employing homeless people, you know, with Llamai, I think it was a charity involved. You know, if they'd gone for £20,000 funding, you know, they would have taken quite a long time, you know, in terms of bids. And some of you, like Andrew, know the pain of filling in contract, you know, lottery bids or council requests and things like that. You know, it could take time. So they look for £20,000. In 7 days, they raised £30,000 from 650 people. And what I liked about this was they got donations from around the world. People who were from Cardiff, who now live in America and Canada and places like that. We're like, yeah, my hometown, looking to do this, great, you know. I think they did a really good job. And why it worked was they had some good video, branding, active on social media, got in the Western Mail or media, you know, Wales Online, in the newspapers. They got Sam Warburton on board and things like that. There was I wouldn't have chosen all their incentives, and it's not because I'm great people, but things like they had a mug, and it wasn't that expensive, and it had no postage and packaging. So posting a mug, mugs are expensive to make. They're not cheap. They're much more expensive than you think they are. Then you've got to package it. Then you've got to label it, take it down to the post office, probably have it weighed, send it somewhere abroad. I was surprised with what margin would have been in that. But equally, if I show you some examples on here, it's a bit not that clear, but if you can see it, effectively they said £3, give us £3, and 15 people said, yeah, no problem. Give us £5 though, and we'll give you a coffee when we open. 7.5 times more people did that. As people will give £3, but I'll give £5 and I get something back, which is a free coffee. The joy of that is it brought 69 people paid more than the smallest donation. And also, what I like about it is that half of them probably won't cash it in. So you've got £5 instead of £3. But also, the other half that do, they're not probably just going to walk in, get their free coffee, sit down and walk back out. They might buy a cake. They might bring a friend with them. They might, because we live in a social media world, photograph it. Here's my free coffee, type thing. It's publicity for the organization. And that's what they did. They did really well. And some of it doesn't have to be expensive. So here, you may not be able to see, but it says, pledge 25 or more, and we'll put your name on our website as a founding member. Cost to them, very little. What does it do for the donor? Ego. People like me love that sort of stuff, and 27 people pledged £25 or more to have their name on their website as a founding member. Love it. Absolutely love it. It's just a way of getting that average donation up. Equally, this was the last, they did a number of them. I couldn't show you all of them, but vanity makes easy money. I'm really listen. Pledge £100 or more, and when we open, there's a TV screen. If you've ever been to Big Moose, so there's a TV screen in the coffee shop, and for the whole of March when they opened, they'll put your name on the screen as legends, people who made this happen. 7 people went, yeah, right, I'll give you £100 or more for literally having their name on a screen in the coffee shop as a legend. I love that type of stuff. So for them, £30,000 in 7 days, you'd still probably be downloading the lottery form at that point, if you were looking for that 20,000. So some of it doesn't have to be big either. It could be a problem. So this is an example from last year. School in Swansea, I think it is, Bryn Mill. Some kids stole their goalposts overnight. So the next morning, they did a little crowdfunder. We'd like to raise £140 to replace our stolen goalposts. They put it live at 9. When they came back at lunchtime, it was at £365, and they closed it quickly. So, problem, we got no goalposts. Solution, by lunchtime, they had 2.5 times the money they needed to replace the goalposts. Doesn't have to be big scale, this, And there's lots of them around. It can be fast as well. So, this was an example. Carnarvon Football Club got broken into, we got vandalised, and therefore, quick crowdfunder, who was going to be their supporters, mainly the Carnarvon town supporters, local people in the community, things like that. And they raised the money they needed quickly. The average donation was quite low, though, so you have to factor in the fees. If you need 1,500, you probably need to raise a bit more than 1,500, because when I looked at theirs, they'll probably lose about 10% in charges and stuff. So you can end up being a bit short, But good effort. This was one in my area, Penarth. So 2 lads who already run a bar in Cardiff. We're looking to open a bar in Penarth. What I liked about it was the video oozed confidence. And it's so they're like, we already operate a bar, tick. So you invested in something, that's a success. We're Penarth Boys. We really want to open this. We've already got the venue and things like that, but we're looking for people to donate £50 each, and you've got a £50 credit when it opens. and then 10% off, like discount card. So you give them £50 and they give you £50 credit back. But yeah, Claire Hammond bought one. That's sort of friends. I bought one. Gareth Club next to me. You know, there was 3 in my street alone bought one, and I think they raised, as I say, £16,000 in a matter of days when they only were looking, I think, for 6,000 originally. It was about 2.5 times oversubscribed. Now they already had the capital for that project. What they were doing though was going back to their bank and everything else, going, we've already sold £16,000 worth of beer and we haven't even opened, you know. And also, I've got a discount card now. If I'm in the high street, do I go to pub X or pub Y? No, I've got a discount card. There's something about a loyalty there, and I think it works really well. So yeah, nice little crowdfunding again. Not to necessarily open, but to build your supporter and your customer base. Couldn't do, obviously, crowdfunding at the moment without Captain Tom Moore. I don't really want to focus on him. I think he did amazing stuff. But you also got to look at why it worked. Sorry, some background noise here. I'm really getting annoyed by that. Why did it work? He was medals, you know, original. You got the local newspaper came on board then. Or it was a very Daily Mail friendly type campaign. You know, they love that type of person. His daughter was very articulate, things like that. I've argued about this, whether it would have worked if it had been, you know, a pensioner from a housing estate somewhere else, you know, in the valleys somewhere here, you know. I think there's something about what media covers at the moment. But good luck to him. The point of this example was amazing work, by the way. But you can't just copy it. Just so you see something with crowdfunding. You know, this is Joan. You know, Joan's got new hips and she's going to walk up and down the garden 26 times, you know, same concept, but she's on £1,000, you know, admittedly of her £200 target. So she's 5 times over her target. But, you know, if you see something else, you don't always need, I wouldn't always necessarily copy it. We know from things like Ice Bucket Challenge, you know, it was a phenomenon in 2014, £100 million raised for ALS, the US charity. When they repeated the next year, thinking, wow, that was a great formula, let's repeat. Died, you know, totally flopped. And therefore, and, you know, charity fundraising is a different category, but in terms of how you keep things fresh, how you incentivize and you know, excite people is something you need to consider. I think I've done that one already, I think. There are lots around at the moment, though, very topical. You know, there are dozens and dozens of different campaigns raising money for shielding carers, NHS charities, everything around, you know. I picked a couple here. What I liked about this was, again, celebrity. So you've got Rhys Ifans here, you know, very much did a bilingual campaign, some good, you know, targets on there and things like that. Tarian Cymru. They've got a website to give it confidence as well. Consequently, the media picked it up and they've got their coverage. But equally, there are dozens of them around at the moment. Local ones, Newport, Cardiff, Gorsinon, Bridgend, all raising money, you know. But, I mean, look at even just the pictures, you know. I quite like that. You can see the product they're trying to make with a teddy bear. Whereas stock photograph like that doesn't excite me. But equally, 10,000 raised of their 10,000 targets, you know. Here with the floods, you know, people may not have heard of the Welsh Council for Voluntary Action, who are coordinating a lot of flood relief community type work. But get Charlie Sheen on board, you know. Mountain Sheen, sorry, Mountain Sheen. Put him on, you know, put him on the front of your campaign. That gives it legitimacy, authority, things like that, and suddenly £87,000 raised of your 75,000 target. So why crowdfunding? I've given you some examples now, but it's that reach, you know. You can reach people through social media. You can get donations from America for a coffee shop in Cardiff, you know, because people see about it and can donate through these platforms, you know. The ease of use, you know. It's no different to setting up a social media profile or something like that. Photos, images, you know, commentary, text, a video. You can inspire, and you can add content as you go along. It's also testing and reinsurance. If you think about the Crafty Devil example, they got the bank, got the loan, got the venue, but they were overwhelmed with the amount of vouchers effectively they sold, through crowdfunding, Indiegogo they used, and so before they've opened, they've sold £16,000 of sales. Great. So it's that testing, reassurance, trust as well. I think it brings confidence to your other investors as well. If you've crowdfunded some of that yourself, how is it easier then to go to other grant donations and say match us and things like that? Efficiency, the speed, and it brings a loyalty to it as well. And you can stretch those goals as you go along. This is the initial target. We've hit that. Now what's the next one? Hope this is making sense. You can learn from the past. Although I said don't copy, as I copy in the Ice Bucket Challenge, copying Captain Tom isn't always going to work. But what rewards were the most popular? If you look at the coffee shop that we showed you, you can see how many people took up the different offers, and people like me have studied them and looked at them and gone, oh yeah, that was really popular, and that didn't really take off. So what worked, what didn't? FAQs. Look at other people's FAQs, because you might want to preempt that and put that in your own, pitch. What imagery, video content worked? Why did I like the Crafty Devil video? I don't know. Maybe I was just the audience and it appealed to me, which is sad middle-aged men of Penarth. It just worked. For that, from their audience. And how do you communicate and keep feeding that? So again, top tip again, appeal to the ego. Yeah, I have to put a picture of myself on it, even when I'm making the point. Are there incentives? Are there ways that people can give money that aren't going to cost you a great deal? Put the name on lights, put the names on the website, things like that. That give that somebody gets something egotistical back. So one of the challenges, one of the first ones is what platform. Some platforms charge a lot more, some charge less, but equally, some platforms you've got to be a charity, some you've got to be a registered group or a limited company. Others you can have individuals. Some people you can raise money, but it doesn't come to you. It's got to go to a charity that's been approved. So the guide goes into that we'll send you, what platforms, and there's fees associated with them. Typically, the charity sites, as you would expect, have smaller charges, whereas some of the more commercial, Indiegogo, GoFundMe, business startup type crowdfunding, they have some higher charges on there. Again, challenges the application process of filling it all in. I don't think any of them are particularly difficult, though. Falling short, this is an important one. Some platforms, you have to set your target, and if you don't hit it, you don't get any of it. Because why? And that's really important, I think. If you're trying to raise the money to buy Sully Island, I'm only picking up down the road from me. You want to buy Sully Islands. People want to donate, fine. But what happens if you only raise half the money? What, are you keeping it? No. You either buy Sully Islands or you don't. So you've set the target, and people are more likely to invest with you and donate and help you crowdfund that, knowing that if you hit the target, you will deliver. So sometimes you do need to set that it's all or nothing targets to get people's confidence, because people are less reluctant to donate to something, and if you fall short, they don't get the outcome. That's satisfaction that you've bought Sully Island or something. Challenges again, finding your audience. It's all about media. It's all about communications, getting your message out there, your team's enthusiasm, and the commitment to deliver. If you've told everybody that everyone who donates gets a button badge, you're going to have to go and get those button badges sorted. You need artwork, buy them, get them back in a bag. You have to put them in an envelope, write on them, and send them all out. And you've got to get that average donation higher. I'll become clear in a minute why. Common mistakes are partly the reverse, but too short a time scale. Give yourself time for your campaign to get momentum. Like I say, the person reading The Hobbit tomorrow will probably get closer because he's got the BBC on board. He's a famous actor. But give yourself time. Again, one of the mistakes is not promoting enough. Just because you make a crowdfunding page doesn't mean to say anyone's going to donate to you. And have variety in that incentives, cost and content. And again, choosing bulky or expensive items to post. The mug ones always I come back to. Expensive to post, fiddly, hard work. Fine if you're going to collect it from the store. You'll probably end up buying a coffee while you're there. Not going to walk in, can I have a free mug, and run back out. So it's just how you frame your campaign. So what platform? Say, got to look in the guide, whether you're charity, legally formed organisation, informal, the whole genre for, private, fund me in college and things like that. Fund my boob job, fund my, just fund me generally, How do you reassure people in communities money will actually go to the project? Well, that goes back to the platform you use. So some of them will, if you're a registered charity and you're on Just Giving and things like that, that's where the confidence comes from, that you're registered and it goes to them. If you're on some of the more flexible, we'll call platforms that allow you to private them, then it comes with all the risk warnings that these projects might not happen and that there is a risk to it, Again, it goes back to if you're a well-meaning individual and you're not legally formed as a community interest company or charity, get some good people behind it and say, your treasurer is somebody in the community that people know and trust, that you've got a local councillor on board. I don't know if council will actually help with trust, but the point is have some people around your campaign that give it credence. I don't know personally the people behind the Save Dinas Powers Woods thing, but they're local based. They're quite transparent about where they are in the community. If they ran off with it, they can't hide. And I think that's part of bringing that trust element to it. And it's something you should tackle right up front. How do we make people give that reassurance? So what type of campaign are you running? Donation or incentives? And the ease of use for your donor. This is an important one. Just Giving, you'll find, if you're a charity, is one of the most expensive platforms. But it's quite an easy platform to use. And most people have got an account already. So although you may pay a little bit more in charges back to Just Giving, you're probably going to get those people donating. Whereas if you used a really obscure new startup platform that no one's ever heard of, you might be, your fees might be minimal, but will people donate to the same level? Would you rather give 10% away? It's not 10, 5% maybe of £1 million, or raise only 100 grand and give only 1% away? You say ease of use of your platform is and that's why people like Just Giving can get away with some of the charges they do. And that's why average donation matters. I'm nearly finished, by the way, in case some of you are wondering. I promised 40 minutes. The average donation, if you look at this graph here, it's in the guide, but if you're raising £10,000 and your average donation is only £10, you will pay 10.6% of that in charges, in everything. There's a card transaction fee, there's a percentage of the raise. It's in the guide, and it's complex, but you will 10.6%. But if you raise £10,000 and your average donation is £50, then you'll get your percentage down to 8.4%. That was for a commercial site, by the way, on Indiegogo. That's not for charities. This was more of a community Kickstarter where you or a small business or something like that. Your fees are a lot lower for charities. But can you see there the difference? Getting your average donation up brings down the fees that they will take and the pot you will have. So in this example, if you were raising £10,000 and you only had average donation £10, you'd only come home with 8,900. So if you need 10,000, you need to be setting a target of 11, 12. And again, the same thing. It's just more examples of the same point. If you can get, if your average donation is the same, then it'll be fairly flat all the way through, as to the percentage taken. The guide's better at explaining than I am. So this is the summary. You've got to decide on straight donation, appeal, give us money because you believe in us, or we'll do something good. But if you're going to do that, set out what you're going to use it for. Set the trust levels. Set that guarantee, you know, set the targets realistic. Or you go reward-based. I find it much more interesting as a marketer. I think you can get your average donation up higher then if you get people get something back. And it doesn't have to be monetary. I say, I've used a couple of examples there where it can be just about people's ego. You know, sell the story, the benefit, you know. If we learn anything from these dreadful X Factor programs and everything else is people love the story, you know, the backstory for what you're doing, what the difference is going to be, well, how your life will be different, or this community will be different when we reached our target. You know, build confidence, celebs, authoritative people behind it, backing it, skills, you know, get them to imagine the outcome, you know. Rewards, again, if you're going to use rewards, think about the profitability, fulfilling them. Here you go, average donation, how are you going to get that up? Find your supporters. They're out there. People will crowdfund all sorts of things, but you've got to find them. And you update and adjust, keep feeding the campaign. And ultimately, there's no substitution for marketing and publicity. You know, that's the difference why Captain Tom raised 30 million, you know, because he was wall to wall, BBC, Daily Mail, you know, breakfast TV, things like that. And why you know, Auntie Jean in sheltered accommodation in Pontyclean probably wouldn't have had the same success, you know. So I think we're coming to the end of what I was going to talk about. As I say, there is a guide, there'll be a video. You can see the slides again if those you want to use it. Anybody got any questions, comments, thoughts? Has this been of use? I know it's a fairly niche subject, but you can probably tell I love talking about this, and more than happy to have conversations with people. Somebody in House Association already has been in touch before this, and I've helped them, you know, with some of their ideas of how they were going to take it forward. How important is Twitter? Good points. I think it depends on who you're going for, you know. In my Dinas Powys Woods one, actually, I don't think Twitter was, because it was a local campaign. It was a Dinas Powys, you know, like all communities have that, you know, Dinas Powys news type sites and things like that. That was more important, you know. Posters on the wall to the entrance to the woods were, but equally, I think the ones that if you're like the opening up the cafe and things like that, Twitter was important, so was, but getting on traditional news sites as well. That's where I read about it. That's how I made my donation, because I wasn't following that campaign. I saw it on, you know, Wales Online. So it depends on if people have worked on what's called persona analysis in marketing. Is, you know, who are you after? Once you know who you're after, where would they see you? What newspapers would they read? What social media would they see? Where would you expect these type of people? Is it word of mouth that they would hear from it, you know? And again, you know, if you're Nicola, who's local based, you know, it would be through the parents and the local community and the Penarth Times for her, you know. But I say, I think for you, in terms of the Twitter stuff, I think that's important if you're on a bigger scale and doing bigger, you know, non-local activities. Yeah. So Rob said, a good summary of how it works, David. Gives pause for thought and planning any campaign. Yeah, I think so, you know, I think if you've got some ideas and you want to be involved, you know, give me a shout. Rosemary, I think in terms of your equity-based one, I'm not the genius on it, but I do know about it. But I would probably we'll pick that up afterwards. I think we could have a conversation on equity-based ones, because it's a form of, you know, private investing into a business, you know. So yeah, we can pick that up and talk about that next week, maybe, you know, catch up. Says a couple of people are typing now still, which is good. I hope you find this useful. Just wait to see if there's anybody else. I don't know. And yeah, please, my final point is, you know, anything after this you want me involved, and it doesn't have to be necessarily for use. Offer any tips for investment kick. Again, I think there's more detail in the guide as to which would you qualify under their charity charging, or would you be classed as a private business? Because a kick is technically a limited company. But I think that's something we can pick up afterwards when I send you the guide. Will you email the guide over? Yes. I can't guarantee it'll be this afternoon. I've got to cut the video, get that so that you get, what I like to do is send you the whole thing together. The guide, a link to YouTube with a video on, you know, so you can rewatch it. The slides as well. So I've just got to package all that up together. So I can't guarantee it this afternoon. I will try. It's 3:15 now. But you will get it, yeah. Those of you who do use TPAS regularly, it's actually on our website already, but I'll package this up to the attendees today. And in terms of the kick, I think I mentioned that we can always pick that up as well. Yeah. Can I pass this on to other groups, codes? Yeah, very much so. Please do share this. Some things TPAS does are confidential, or they're for members only, and we get, you know, protected about it. I think for something like this, it's part of our TPAS commitment to stronger communities, to, you know, I want community groups to be doing this sort of stuff, you know, building their own strength and resilience. We're going to face we are already facing hard times, whether that's COVID, whether that's changes to Brexit. You know, I think our groups need to be stronger. So yeah, please do pass on any of this material. And I'll be honest, as long as it doesn't take up too much, I'll happily talk to anybody, you know, another group, even if they don't have a relationship with us. Great. I guess I should wait. David Lloyd's typing, so I should at least let him finish. I'll stop the recording now, though, if that's okay.